Two. 1, 2. Okay. We're going to have to really make this quick. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Elliot Francis. This is Now. Glad you're with us on this Friday afternoon, Friday the 25th of October, with only 10 days left to go. 10 days left to go before the election, before a consequential election, as you all know. And there's no turning back on this one. We've got a lot to do and a lot to talk about. Want to do a couple of things here. First of all, I'd be remiss if I did not mention the Washington Post this afternoon. As you probably know, the Washington Post editorial board made a decision, decided this afternoon, or actually this morning on Friday, to not endorse a candidate for president for this presidential cycle, which is quite unusual, not without precedent. They have done it before, but not for years. And to do it now raises a lot of questions. This comes on the heels, of course, of the Los Angeles Times doing the same thing just yesterday. And so the questions are popping up all over the place. Who's influencing this? What's the real story? We don't know. We don't know much about the latter. We do know the former. In both cases, it's the owner. I'm not as familiar with the owner of the Los Angeles Times, but the Washington Post, as you may know, is owned by Amazon's Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos, of course, is the CEO, chief bottle washer, and head honcho of Amazon. But Amazon is a commerce company, a very good one. Use it all the time. But I'm trying to figure out what he knows about news journalism and why he felt it necessary to meddle in this. And again, we're hearing this from multiple reports, published reports, that he was the strong man, so to speak, behind all this. But those questions will still arise. It's a developing story. Not breaking news. Remember, breaking news is something that once it happens, it's no longer breaking. This is a developing story, and so we'll stay on it and see what happens. Meantime, let's talk about what we do. Two things here today, of course. First of all is we want to talk about something that has been in the news lately. One word: fascism. It's a word that's been thrown around more recently, associated with the MAGA movement and Donald Trump. And we got the impression that few people really understand what it is and why it should be associated with somebody like Donald Trump. We'll talk about that in a second, but I just wanted to let you know. Also that our call center is back up. We were taking calls. You can call us if you have anything to talk about, not just fascism, but anything. We have a scant 20 minutes because we have another closed session coming up at 4 o'clock, regular session that we do on every Friday here. And we'll need the time for that, so it's going to be very short. But if you have anything that you feel you want to run past me or just get off your chest or debate about, something you disagree with on me, call us right now at 443-505-7560, 443-505-7560, and we'll put you right here with me on now. And so there's that. So let's talk about fascism here for a second. You know, I've talked to a couple of folks, a couple of people, and it is very clear to me that people who throw this word around are not quite clear on the meaning. And you have to start there, because if you're going to associate a fascism movement or call somebody a fascist, also you want to know what you're talking about. And it just seems like a lot of people don't know what they're talking about. So first and foremost, why don't we just, it's like fourth grade school, right? Why don't we start with a definition? I don't know. It seems like most people should have gotten this. Most people should have picked this up. However, we haven't talked about a fascist movement in a long time. So here it is. And this is the dumbed down version. Not that you're dumb. You're a smart person. I know you are. Which is why I wanted to run this on you. Make sure that you're even smarter than you were when you came in here. But here's the definition. And again, this is simplified, so I'll add a few words. It's a far-right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalist government marked by centralization of authority under a dictator. And maybe we stop there for a second. Give me a full screen. Put a full screen of this up so we can get a full idea of what we're talking about here. So this system of government marked by centralization of authority under a dictator, okay? Number one, ultra-nationalist. You know what that is. Nationalism. We want to keep it all in here. We don't want to talk about anybody else. We don't want to help anybody else. Authoritarian. I have sway over everybody. I make the decisions. I enforce all the laws. And far right, we know what that is, far right, conservative principles. Stringent socioeconomic control, suppression of the opposition through terror and censorship. And typically a policy of belligerent nationalism and racism. Now again, if you look at most of this, it makes sense when you're talking about Donald Trump. He fits all those areas. Now, we know this, and we know this. We've got an example of this in the 20th century, and you know who he is. His name is Adolf Hitler, and the rise of Nazism in the mid-20th century, 1930, of course, 33 to 45, Nazi Germany, and so most people are well aware, but I get the impression that many people have given up on understanding what happened there back in the 1930s to 1945 and the war that we fought, World War II, and why we fought it. Why this definition and how it fits not only Hitler, but a person who apparently Donald Trump now admires, and it would seem would want to be like. And again, we're here, 443-505-7560. Let me put that number back up again, because something is going to trip something's going to trip you, and you're going to want to call in. And again, you can call that number right down there. We'll get you on the phone right here, live, because we're live today. So, again, looking back at what we've known from recent history, Donald Trump, you've heard all this before, but I'll repeat it for you. You remember Donald Trump wanting to claim that I will be your retribution. He says that to his MAGA people. First of all, hard to believe, hard to understand why people would even consider that something to run on. Because you would think that I would want to vote for somebody or elect somebody because of what they want to do for me. Retribution is not anything that you do for me. It's revenge against somebody else. And that just to me seems way out of place in terms of why you would elect somebody. Second thing is, and you heard this maybe a few months ago, Trump claiming that he would be a dictator on day one. On day one. Of course, many people think, oh, day one, if you're going to be a dictator on day one, you'll be a dictator on day 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't matter. Be a dictator for the entire 4 years or maybe more that you're going to be there. You'll also recall that but his handpicked members of the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, granted him, back in July of this year, granted him limited immunity for the executive branch. So think about that now. Wants to be a dictator on day one, wants to be your retribution, now has immunity to do anything he wants to do. So you're setting up these building blocks for this fascist society. If you want to take it one step further, we fast forward up to just this past week, and we hear revelations from his former chief of staff, John Kelly, who served longer than any other chief of staff, and a very credible guy from all indications and from all people who know him, claiming that Trump admired Adolf Hitler. Concurrent to that is a publication that came out in The Atlantic, a story that I posted earlier this week, that highlighted a conversation that Trump had, I believe, back in 2018, 2019, in which he insisted that he would like to have the kind of generals that Hitler had. So it's obvious that he knows the history. If he doesn't know the history, somebody around him knows the history. Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, Sebastian Gorka, all those hateful, insidious people around him that are plotting to do what they want to do if he got into office, which he won't. So go back in history a little bit. If you want to see an example of this in the 20th century, let me switch this down for a second here. Go to a point in history with Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany was just on the rise. And this guy you see right here, see him? Right beside the guy who admires him, Adolf Hitler, was just rising to power. He had just been named chancellor by Paul von Hindenburg, who was, to simplify this here, von Hindenburg was president. He named Hitler chancellor in 1933, I believe it was. And with that position of chancellor, you have sway over everything political. The first thing that Hitler wanted to do was dissolve Germany's equivalent of the House of Representatives. They have two houses there as well. We have. He dissolved the House of Representatives. But he could feel very quickly that there are people against him, people working against him. So Hitler eliminates the Reichstag. That's their name for the House of Representatives. And then soon after, he decides, because he has complete sway over everything. And remember, Donald Trump would come into office, hire Aileen Cannon for Attorney General. We've heard that. We know that Aileen Cannon wants to do everything that Trump wants her to do, without question, and come in and do his bidding. So you have somebody like Aileen Cannon moving in, and giving him full control over the laws of the country. In other words, they make the laws at that point. Tell who's bad and who's not. Remember the phrase he used just about 2 or 3 days ago? Enemies within. So you've got Nancy Pelosi, that he's named Adam Schiff, and others named the enemy within. These people are rounded up in Trump administration. Backed with Hitler, these same similar people who Hitler didn't like were rounded up. And on one or two evenings, were murdered. 100 to 900 of these people. It's called the Night of Long Knives. The Night of Long Knives. Look it up. Look it up and compare that with what you see going on now, or what you see is being planned. And compare it with the Heritage Foundation's blueprint for Trump. God, I almost called him Hitler. They are almost one and the same there. And see the comparisons between the two. See the comparisons between the two, and you'll be surprised. In that Night of Long Knives, in 1934, Hitler consolidates power by murdering all the people either he didn't like or that he thought were his enemies. And history records, or at least what Hitler had reported to von Hindenburg, who was ailing but still alive at the time. He reported that they had to jail about 100 people. In reality, it was many more. In 1934, the following year, Hindenburg dies. Hitler now has complete control over the government of Germany, and the Nazis rise even further. And we learn that during those Night of Long Knives, when that purge was made, because Hitler had total control and could not be brought accountable for what he was doing, we learn that more than 900 people were killed or executed. And so there's that. And that is why when you compare what happened in 1933 Germany with the Night of Long Knives, you come back, fast forward, and you look and see what Trump is doing now, and you can see the building blocks of something similar being created by MAGA and the people surrounding Trump. So again, if there's any doubt in your mind that this definition of fascism is a reality, don't have any doubt. Again, read your own definition. You have it here. You can clip it from this recording if you care to. You can talk it over with your friends. We'll talk about it again through next week. I think I'm going to try and repeat this again because we have very little time. tonight to get into it, but it is it's important because when you hear Vice President Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, call Donald Trump a fascist, she's not doing it because she wants to call him names. He's prone to do that. People think, well, she wants to play that game and call him names back. No, no, no. It's not it. She's describing the kind of man. He wants to be the kind of system, political system, government that he wants to create here in the U.S. And if that happens, I think you know what happened to Germany in World War II. It could very possibly happen right here in the U.S. And we don't want to be those people that we saw in documentary footage in 1945 Germany, crying, standing in the middle of rubble, in the middle of Berlin, looking in the camera and saying, we never thought this would happen. We're being told how it could happen. Pay attention. Pay attention. Because it can happen right here. So, that's about it for now. I got to dash off. I got another thing at 4 o'clock here, and it is actually 4 o'clock, but we'll be doing this some more in the next week or so. Your comments are welcome, even after the fact. We'll leave the comment page up. And for all intent and purposes, have a great weekend. Remember, early voting has started in many states. Please vote early if you can. I have already. Many of my neighbors have. We want you to as well. And if you don't, be sure and vote on November 5th. It is important that everybody get out and vote. In the meantime, have a great weekend. We will certainly see you next week. And until then, take care. Peace.